Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The glass doors of Thompson and Associates reflected the bright midday sun as I pushed them open, a bouquet of red roses in one hand and a delicately wrapped gift box in the other. Today was Claire's 35th birthday, and I planned to surprise her at work. The office buzzed with the usual corporate hum, but today there was a festive air as her colleagues had organized a small celebration. "Hey, John, perfect timing." Claire's colleague, Mark, greeted me with a hearty slap on the back. We were just about to bring out the cake. I forced a smile, balancing the roses and gift. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," I replied, scanning the room for Claire. There she was, radiant and laughing, surrounded by her team. My heart swelled with affection. She was the sun to my earth, or so I had believed. "Surprise!" I announced, stepping into the crowd. Claire turned, her smile faltering for a split second before it widened. "John! What are you doing here?" she exclaimed, coming over to hug me. Her surprise seemed genuine, but it was hard to tell these days. "Happy birthday, love," I said, handing her the roses and the gift. "Thought I'd make this year special." As the laughter and chatter resumed, someone called out, "Hey, Claire's got another gift here." A tall, lanky man, whom I recognized as another of Claire's coworkers, Tom, was it, approached with a small, elegantly wrapped box. Claire accepted it with a curious glance, tearing open the paper under the watchful eyes of the office. The lid came off, revealing a sleek, silver bracelet. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the crowd. "Wow, Tom, it's beautiful," Claire admired the bracelet, holding it up against the light. "Thank you so much." Tom just nodded, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "Open the box completely," he suggested. Claire, puzzled, lifted the bracelet out and then noticed a folded piece of paper tucked beneath. She unfolded it, and as she read, her face drained of color. The room fell eerily silent, everyone's attention now fixed on her. Unable to bear the suspense, I leaned over. On the note was scrawled, "Thanks for a wonderful weekend." Laughter broke out, but it was strained, awkward. I felt a chill run down my spine. "What's this, Claire?" I asked, my voice tight. "Oh, it's just a silly joke." Claire hurried to explain, laughing too loudly. "Tom and I, we went to that team building retreat last weekend." "Actually, the retreat is next month," a voice interjected. It was Janet from HR, her eyebrows raised. The room's atmosphere shifted palpably. Claire's eyes met mine, filled with panic. I felt the ground shift beneath me. The murmurs grew louder, the birthday wishes now replaced by whispers of scandal. "I think we need to talk," I said quietly to Claire, grabbing her arm and pulling her aside. As we stood in the quiet corner of the bustling office, the truth came out in hushed, painful fragments. There was no retreat. There had been a weekend getaway, but not for work, for pleasure, with Tom. The betrayal sliced through me sharper than any knife could. How long? Why? The questions burned, but the answers were worse. As the party continued behind us, a plan began to take root in my mind. Not here. Not now. But soon, Claire would understand the true cost of her choices. Leaving the roses trampled on the floor, I walked out of the office. Behind me, the echo of my departure mingled with the fading sounds of celebration, marking the end of not just a party but of everything we had built together. The evening was dark and the streets deserted as I drove away from Claire's office, my hands shaking slightly on the wheel. The festive balloons and cheerful decorations were a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I parked my car near our favorite cafe, a place once filled with laughter and shared dreams, now just a backdrop for my swirling thoughts. I barely noticed the rain starting as I walked into the cafe. The barista, recognizing me, attempted a friendly wave, but I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. I ordered a coffee, black, no sugar, anything to help focus my mind on what needed to be done. As I sat brooding over my drink, my phone buzzed. It was Claire. Ignoring it only brought a string of messages, each more pleading than the last. "I can explain. Please, let's talk." With each vibration, my resolve hardened. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a calculated deceit. Finally, I texted back, "Meet me at the park." 30 minutes. It was the place where we had first met, where I had proposed. A fitting venue for the end of our story. The park was quiet, the usual crowds deterred by the weather. Claire was already there, standing under our tree, soaked but determined. As I approached, her expression was a mix of hope and fear. "John, she started, but I held up a hand to stop her. "No, Claire. First, you listen," I said coldly. "How long has it been going on?" Her voice was small, almost lost in the rain. 3 months. But it didn't mean anything, I swear. It was a mistake. A mistake repeated every weekend is a choice, Claire, I retorted sharply. You chose this. You chose him. She stepped forward, reaching out, but I stepped back. "John, please. I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, Claire. You did." My voice broke, revealing the raw wound her betrayal had left. "And now, you're going to see exactly what your choices have cost us." I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. Photos of her and Tom, receipts from their getaways, the evidence was damning. "I've forwarded these to your boss and your parents. Everyone will know the kind of person you really are." Her face crumbled, the impact of my words hitting her like physical blows. "You didn't," she gasped, tears mixing with the rain. "I did. And I'm filing for divorce. Our marriage, what was left of it, is over." Claire sank to her knees, her cries muffled by the storm. I watched, feeling a hollow victory. Revenge had been exacted, but it brought no relief, only a deeper chill that matched the coldness of the rain. As I turned to leave, her voice reached me, strained and desperate. "John, I'm so sorry. Please." But I didn't look back. Her apologies were as empty as the promises we had once made under this very tree. I walked away, leaving her alone in the darkness, the truth of our ruined dreams echoing in the whisper of the rain. In the solitude of my car, the weight of what I'd done, and what I had lost, settled around me. Claire was out of my life, but the path I had chosen felt no less desolate. As the rain pounded on the roof, I realized that this was only the beginning. My quest for retribution had only just begun, and I was already drowning in its consequences. The sun hadn't risen yet when I arrived at the office the next morning. The streets were empty, washed clean by the night's rain, mirroring the emptiness I felt inside. I bypassed my usual morning coffee, sleep had eluded me, and caffeine was no substitute for rest. Instead, I sat at my desk, the glow of the computer screen casting long shadows in the dim light. As I logged in, an email notification popped up. It was from Claire's boss. My heart raced as I clicked open the message. "John, I need to see you immediately about the information you sent last night. Please come to my office as soon as you arrive." The walk to her boss's office felt longer than usual. When I entered, I found not only her boss but also an HR representative seated inside. They both looked serious, the air heavy with unspoken words. "John, we've received the evidence you forwarded," her boss began, his tone measured. "This is a serious accusation. Are you certain about pursuing this?" "Yes, I am," I responded firmly, my voice devoid of hesitation. "Very well," he continued. "Given the nature of the allegations and the evidence provided, we are starting an official investigation. However, you should also be prepared for the repercussions. This is a delicate matter." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As I left the office, the reality of my actions began to sink in. I had set in motion events that could not be undone. Returning to my desk, my phone rang. It was Tom, Claire's coworker. "We need to talk," he said, his voice strained. "Meet me at the old warehouse on 5th. You know the one." 20 minutes later, I stood facing Tom in the dim interior of the warehouse, the morning light barely filtering through the dirty windows. "Why'd you drag me into your mess?" Tom's face was tense, angry. "You didn't have to blow everything up." "This is on you as much as on her," I shot back, my anger rising. "You knew she was married." Tom paced back and forth, his hands balled into fists. "It was never meant to go this far. It was just a fling." "A fling that destroyed a marriage," I retorted. "Look, what do you want from me now? Claire's a mess, you've ruined her career." "I want you to suffer as I have," I said coldly. "I want you to feel the betrayal." Tom stopped pacing, looking at me with a mixture of fear and defiance. "What are you saying?" "I've sent the evidence to your wife too," I revealed, watching his face drain of color. "You didn't," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I did," I confirmed, the words like ice. "You both deserve to feel the consequences of your actions." Tom sank to the ground, his body seeming to crumble under the weight of his choices. As I turned to leave, his voice followed me, a desperate plea, "John, please, think of our families." But I walked out, leaving him in his despair, the echo of his plea fading behind me. As I drove away, the sky began to lighten, heralding a new day, but the darkness within me deepened. I had achieved my retribution, but at what cost? The question lingered, unresolved, as I headed towards an uncertain future, the road ahead as murky as the storm clouds gathering once more on the horizon. The city was quiet as dawn broke, a deceptive peace that mirrored none of the turmoil brewing within me. After a sleepless night, I found myself outside Claire's apartment, the early morning mist clinging to my coat as I waited. Today would be the end, one way or another. Claire appeared, her face pale and eyes swollen from crying. She froze when she saw me. "John, what are you doing here?" "I came to finish this, once and for all," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "John, I've lost everything. Isn't that enough?" Her voice was pleading, desperate. "Not yet. There's one last thing," I said, pulling a stack of papers from my bag. "Divorce papers. Sign them." As she took the papers, her hands trembled. "John, please. Can we just talk about this?" "There's nothing left to say," I interrupted her. I watched impassively as she signed each page, the finality of each stroke sealing the end of our shared past. With the papers back in my hand, I turned to leave, but a sudden, furious shout stopped me. It was Tom, rushing towards me, his face contorted with rage. "You've destroyed everything I had," he yelled, charging at me like a bull. I sidestepped, and his momentum carried him past me. "You did that yourself," I said coldly. Tom turned, his breath heavy, eyes wild. "You think you're the only one who can plan revenge," he spat out, pulling out his phone. "Look at this." He showed me a series of messages and photos, Claire and me, seemingly at various stages of reconciliation. "I sent these to your friends, your family. Told them how you forgave her, how you were the one at fault all along." A cold laugh escaped me. "Do you think that matters now?" I asked, my own phone in hand. "I recorded everything, Tom. Every threat, every admission. And I've just sent it to the police." Tom's face fell, the impact of my words hitting him harder than any physical blow could. "You won't get away with this," he muttered. "I already have," I replied. As police sirens began to wail in the distance, getting louder, I added, "Claire, you should go inside. This doesn't involve you anymore." She looked between me and Tom, confusion and fear in her eyes. "John, why? Why all this?" Because betrayal is a poison, and it has to be purged completely, I said, the final words I would ever say to her. As the police cars pulled up, Tom was arrested without resistance, his fight gone. Claire stayed by the doorway, a silent witness to the end of everything we had. I walked away without looking back, the signed divorce papers in my bag feeling like both a weight and a release. The morning sun finally broke through the clouds, casting long shadows on the pavement. I walked into the light, alone, the echoes of betrayal and revenge slowly fading behind me. The future was uncertain and dark, but it was mine to shape, free from lies, free from the past.